Let's go to Jack Cafferty right now. He's joining us with the Cafferty file.
Wolf, this is a little bit like a bad acid flashback, but it's worth mentioning. President Bush and top administration officials publicly made 935 false statements, that's a polite way to say lies, about the risk posed by Iraq in the 2 years following 9/11, according to a study done by two nonprofit journalism groups. The study found President Bush led the pack with 260 lies, but he wasn't alone. Other officials include Vice President Cheney, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, then National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice before she got promoted, and former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, among others. The study points to at least 532 times where officials said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction or was trying to get them or had links to al-Qaeda. They say the statements, quote, were part of an orchestrated campaign that effectively galvanized public opinion and in the process led the nation to war under decidedly false pretenses. That's a quote. The White House called the study flawed and repeated the administration's position that the world community saw Saddam Hussein as a threat. President Bush said that at the time he and other officials made these statements, the U.S. intelligence community and other nations thought Iraq had WMD. But they didn't. And yet we're still there. And almost 4,000 of our troops are dead because of it. Here's the question. What do you make of a study that shows President Bush and his top aides made 935 false statements about the threat from Iraq in the 2 years following 9/11? Go to cnn.com/Cafferty file where you can post comment on my new blog. Wolf?
Excellent blog it is indeed, Jack. Thanks very much. Jack Cafferty will be back shortly. Jack Cafferty's got the Cafferty file right now, Jack.
Wolf, the question this hour is, what do you make of a study? It was done by two nonprofit groups of journalists, a study that shows President Bush and his top aides made 935 false statements about the threat from Iraq in the 2 years following 9/11. Larry writes, I don't think anyone would be surprised that they lied, and this often. But what's going to happen? Nothing. They'll get away with this like they've gotten away with everything else for the last 7 years. What is wrong with this country when we have allowed this to happen? By tomorrow, you'll never hear about this story again. Dave in Brooklyn writes, if I had any say in the matter at all, I'd make a very strong case for impeachment out of it. But my question is, where were these journalists 6 years ago? Nelson in New Jersey, quick, somebody make a copy of this database so we'll have a proper backup in the event it disappears like the administration's emails. This will come in handy when they're prosecuted for war crimes. Vinny writes, hey, Jack, you failed to mention the study was done by the Center for Public Integrity, which has ties to George Soros and which he funds through his Open Society Institute. Michael writes from Connecticut, now that the truth has come out about what we already knew about Iraq, this Congress has a duty to bring impeachment against Bush and Cheney, as this is very serious and they must be held accountable. Billions of dollars spent on top of thousands of innocent people dead because of this Iraq war, all based on lies. Congress must act. Ben writes from Louisville, Kentucky, what's worse, 935 lies or the watchdog press not doing anything about it for 7 years? And Judy writes, when I read your blog, my stomach turned. 4,000 kids who will never see the light of day again and their families, all for a pack of lies. Some legacy, this Bush and company. Wolf?
Thank you, Jack.